we're back. Sorry we lost you there for a minute. Our computer decided to turn off on us. So we're back. And we're going to start over at the beginning so you don't have any interruptions. Lord willing. And the bugs stay out of the computer. So we were talking about the resurrection, how Jesus rose from the dead, how the angel rolled the stone away. We talked about how the ladies came to anoint his body and put spices on it as a way to honor Jesus. We talked about how when they got there, Mary Magdalene ran away, and the women looked inside and saw that the body was gone, and that the angel told them that Jesus was alive, that he had risen from the dead as he said he would. Well, the ladies told the disciples, and the disciples came running, and they looked inside, and they saw that he wasn't there. But the Bible says that it wasn't like thieves had stolen him, like they were scared of. It said that the grave clothes were laying there just like he had been in them, and that the cloth that covered his face had been folded and set to the side. And the disciples came to the conclusion that thieves wouldn't have done that, and that Jesus really must have risen from the dead like he said he would after 3 days. And they went rejoicing, and the angel had told them too that you're going to see Jesus, you're going to see him. So they went back and they were telling everybody, and they were rejoicing that Jesus had risen from the dead. Well, remember, Mary Magdalene had run off, and she didn't know, and she hadn't heard what the angel had said, that Jesus was alive. And she went back to the grave, and she was crying, and she was sad because she thought someone had stolen Jesus' body. And she was very upset. And right back here on the picture, you see that Jesus came up behind her. And he said, "Why are you crying?" And she said, well, she thought, the Bible says she thought he was the gardener, that he was just there taking care of the gardens around the tombs, and she didn't realize that it was Jesus. And she said, "They've taken the body of my Lord, and I don't know where they've put him." And she was crying, and she was sad. Well, right then, Jesus says her name. He says, "Mary." And as soon as she heard her name, she knew that it was Jesus, and she recognized him. I bet he maybe looked different. Maybe he glowed or shone, or I don't know. He looked different to them, and she realized that it was Jesus. And he said, "Go tell the disciples that I'm alive." And so she went and told the disciples that he was alive. And they're still there all rejoicing, but they haven't seen Jesus yet. Well, Jesus started walking down a road. It's called the road to Emmaus. So the town is Emmaus that they're going to, and Jesus was walking, and he came across 2 disciples. And they were upset and talking and trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do? And, we thought Jesus was going to come, and he was going to be the Messiah. And they were just so confused by a lot of stuff, and they were talking it out. And Jesus was like, "Why are y'all so upset?" And they were like, "Well, are you living under a rock? Do you not know what's going on in this world?" And they started telling him about Jesus and how he had done all these miracles, and they thought he was the Messiah. And then how the Romans had taken him and they had crucified him and he was dead. And now they're saying that his grave is empty, and they just didn't know what they were going to do. Well, Jesus was like, "Well, you must not know what the Bible teaches." So he starts teaching them the Bible. So way back in the law and through the prophets, the part of the Bible that we know as the Old Testament, that's the part of the Bible they had back then. So he was telling them, he was showing them all the way through the Old Testament how Jesus was the Messiah. And he taught them all of these things. Well, they got to their house. And they said, "Well, there's no need for you to keep traveling. Why don't you come in and have dinner with us?" That's how you know you've made a good friend, if they can come over and have dinner with you. And I know you can't get together with people and have dinner right now, but soon you'll be able to. And it's a special time to be able to take time and eat with people and talk with them and spend time. And so they had asked this traveler that they didn't recognize to come in and to have a meal with them. And the Bible says that Jesus took the bread and broke it and started giving it to them. And it was their eyes were opened, and they realized that it was Jesus who told them all of this truth and had talked to them about the Old Testament. And you know what they thought? We should have recognized him earlier. We should have known when he was teaching us the Bible that it was Jesus, because He has a special way of showing what the Bible says. And the Bible says, they said, didn't our ears burn? Didn't we know that it was Jesus when he was talking? But then, poof, he was gone. He was there 1 minute, and he was gone the next. So even though Jesus had risen from the dead, his body wasn't like our bodies. He was supernatural body now. He had a perfect body now. So he could do things like that. And poof, he was gone. And so they run and they tell the disciples, we saw Jesus and he talked with us and he ate with us. Now, I think by this point, the disciples are kind of like, okay, come on, everybody else gets to see him. Why don't we get to see him? I think that's how I would feel. And they were like, okay, so now Mary's seen him and the angel told us about him. And now these guys have seen him. When are we going to get to see him? And it says that night when they were all gathered together that Jesus appeared out of nowhere. Jesus was there with them. And they were so happy to see him, and they could see that he had the nail prints in his hands, and he showed them that indeed it was Jesus, and they were so excited and happy. And then the Bible says that Jesus just was gone, walked through a wall. So another way we know that Jesus wasn't just the same, he just wasn't like we are anymore. He was glorified. And so he walked right through that wall like nothing. And there was only one problem. Thomas wasn't there. And now Thomas, I don't know if you remember this from all back in the Gospels. Thomas had a problem. Thomas was what we call a skeptic. Or he didn't like to just believe things just because people told him so. He wanted to understand and he wanted to see proof of things. And he just wasn't quick to believe people. And Thomas wasn't there that night when Jesus came. And the disciples all told him, Jesus was here. We saw him. He's alive. He's raised from the dead. And Thomas is like, it was probably just a spirit or something. Or, y'all had too much grape juice or something was going on because I do not think that Jesus was here. Well, they were like, yes, it was him. I promise you it was him. Well, the next time they were all together, Jesus just appeared again. And Thomas was there. And Thomas was like, well, how do I know for sure that it's you, Jesus? How do I know that you're who you say you are? And Jesus showed him the nail prints in his hands and the where the spear had pierced his body when he was hanging on the cross. And he showed Thomas the proof that he was who he said he was, that he was Jesus. And then he said something, and this is the verse that I want y'all to think about tonight. He told him, you're blessed for believing in me and for me seeing my hands and my side and my feet and knowing that it's Jesus and believing that I'm raised from the dead. But he said that there is a special blessing for people that are going to believe on Jesus and believe he raised from the dead even though they don't get to see him in person. And sometimes for us, it's hard for us to believe in things that we can't see. And we're like, well, I don't know if it's real. Or, maybe we believe like at night when it's dark and we can't see, it makes us scared because we can't see stuff. And the thing in your closet looks really scary at night without the lights on. But then in the morning when you turn the lights on, it's just, your clothes that you threw in there and it's not scary at all. So sometimes trying to believe in something that you can't see and touch and feel can be really hard for us. Makes our brains kind of go, what? But the Bible says that God has a special blessing for people that will believe on him, believe that he rose from the dead. In other words, believe what the Bible says is true, even if they don't get to see Jesus in person. Well, we know now that Jesus is in heaven, and we don't have him here to touch like we can our parents or our brothers and sisters or our dog or something that we can actually see and touch and feel and hold. But the Bible says when you choose to believe in Jesus because of what the Bible says, when you put your faith in that, even though you can't see it, that God gives you a special blessing. I loved that when I was a kid. I remember hearing that from one of my Sunday school teachers, and I thought that was just the greatest thing. That you think, oh, it would have been really great to live back then and to know Jesus and to see him and know him just like you know people today. And it's kind of a bummer that we don't get to do that. But it's an extra special thing that because God said, if you're going to be willing and choose to believe in me, even though you can't see me, I'm going to give you a special blessing. And so you can think about this week that you have a special blessing from God when you choose to believe in him, believe that he died and was buried and rose again for you, that God will give you a special blessing. Now, I know we have a lot. Now, this has been our third QAM that we've had to live stream that you haven't gotten to be with us. And we're going to finish out the year like this with live stream, where I can't see ya and give you hugs and tell you, we love you and we miss you. But we'll keep doing this. We have a couple more lessons, and we're going to keep doing it until the normal time for us to end QAM. So I want you to keep trying to look at your verses and trying to review them with your parents, the ones that Mr. West teaches you. We're going to keep learning some more about what happened after Jesus rose from the dead and what he wants from us now that he has risen from the dead and what that means for us. And I just want you to make sure you're here every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. So we will be. So you make sure you're here Tuesdays at 6 o'clock.
Let's get ready to go home. Oh, you are home.
All right, it is time to go home, like Mr. Chris said. So another week down of watching my ugly face, Pastor Wes's less ugly face, and Miss Laura's a pretty face on TV. So, yeah. Anyway, we're going to sing one more song, and then we're going to dismiss you just like we would if you were here, okay? Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. Good job, guys. It has been not so fun not having you here, because when you guys are here, we have a whole lot more fun. So hopefully we can see you all again soon. So we're going to go ahead and dismiss, just like we were if you're here. So if you're on Mr. Todd Schmidt's bus, go get on Mr. Todd Schmidt's bus. If you're on Pastor Monday's bus, go follow Pastor Monday. If you're on Mr. Dustin's bus, go get on the bus. And try to be good, okay? So be good on the way home on the bus. All right? Anyway, we love you guys. Miss you. Till next time.